Okay, audio is now recording. Okay, whoa, dude, you're moving around. It's like I'm about ready to have a seizure looking at that. All right, well, here we are. We are on the Big Access podcast, and today we've got some really cool topics that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking all about warehouse spaces and manufacturing spaces, and ultimately how access control is beneficial in those. Today we've got a really cool guest with us, John how do you say your last name, man?
It's Taschetta.
Taschetta. All right.
Fred, but a little bit better.
No, nice. So there you go. John with Structured WNY. They're here today to talk to us all about how they use PDK in warehouse scenarios. So, John, thanks a ton for taking the time to join us on the Big Access podcast today.
Yeah, no worries at all, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, let's first start off by having you tell us a little bit about who your company is, what you guys specialize in, and ultimately why you guys have chosen to partner with PDK.
So, Structured is a little bit over 4 years old. Nothing too crazy. We're a little bit newer to the scene, but we're all young, hungry. We get along as a big family. A little dysfunctional at times, but what family isn't, right?
Exactly. You took those words right out of my mouth. What family isn't a little dysfunctional?
Yep. Yeah, we like to be out there, have a good time. Our specialties, we're kind of well-rounded. We like to start off teaching our new guys a little bit about data, and we'll go into security and then access control and then fire. Kind of start at the bottom and work our way up.
That's awesome. So when you started looking at different access control manufacturers and different services to be able to offer your customers, what ultimately made you guys want to look at PDK and ultimately decide to go with PDK?
So the big thing is the end users functionality, right? So that's what we look at. We don't care if it's a pain for us to set up. And I'm not saying PDK is a breeze to set up, especially if you're installing. But we look at that end user's platform, and PDK was the simplest. It's cloud-based, so we don't really got to do much when it comes to updating. It kind of all does it on its own. So it's an RMR, and the end users love it because it's so simple.
That's one of the biggest things that we love too on our end. It's always, what is the end user going to think? How is that end user experience going to be? Because that's been such a problem in security in general. It's just clunky, horrible software that takes 3 days to learn. And even then it just goes way over everybody's heads. And so ultimately, if you can make it be a software and a platform that somebody can understand in 10 to 15 minutes, you're doing a good job, I think.
Yeah, we got a couple of our customers there while we were installing it. I kind of gave them access as we were, continuing doors on, and they're like, "Yeah, I don't even need a tutorial. I figured it out. It's that simple."
Hey, I mean, is that testimonial enough or what? Being able to just sit there and have them do it, it's cool. One of the coolest demos that I ever gave to an end user, we were sitting in their office. I was with my dealer. This was back when I was a sales guy, and the end user just looks at me and goes, "You know what? Everything you're saying is great, but give me the app, and don't say anything." I handed over my phone, and he started playing with everything, and he goes, "Yep, I get it. This works." It was really cool. It was a sweet just testament right then and there that the platform works. What PDK is putting out there really is strong for dealers and end users alike.
Yeah, makes our lives easier.
Well, let's talk a little bit about different types of end users that are out there. Obviously, PDK you're going to find in a lot of different end user verticals. You're going to find us in a lot of commercial spaces. You're going to find us in schools. You're going to find us in multi-dwelling units. But in particular, I want to talk about warehouses and in manufacturing plants and big open spaces where you're going to have access control needs. And ultimately, why is PDK good there? So let's start talking a little bit about warehouse spaces and talk to me a little bit about what your guys' experience is in a warehouse space and ultimately why PDK works there for you guys.
So a lot with the warehouse space, I mean, look, they're big. A lot of them are steel construction. You got to deal with, wide open areas. You got one door, 300 feet away from another door, running cables. And with PDK, what we like to do is we'll have that WiMAC, right? So you guys got that wireless network, super handy. All you got to do is bring power to a panel, and you can have a one door controller at each door if you're way out there. And you got that kit to kind of help you guys out on distances and all that fun jazz. So there's a little bit of homework, but nothing crazy, man.
Yeah, you're right. That's one of the cool things that I think is really beneficial in those warehouse spaces, being able to have a wireless application where, for those of you who don't know, one of the cool things about PDK is each one of our controllers, you just plug it in, it's self-discoverable with the network, but every red controller is modular. So you can get a PoE module to make it a PoE controller, but what John's talking about here is a wireless module. So we have our own proprietary wireless network that we call WiMAC. And all you need to do is take that kit, plug it right into the board, attach the antenna, and now that controller is going to be able to communicate over our own proprietary wireless signals with other controllers. It actually talks in a mesh network, so every controller is able to bounce those signals off of each other to be able to communicate. And one of the really cool things too is it is also a self-healing smart mesh network as well. So if there ever is any interference between two controllers, those controllers are then able to look for an alternative path back to the main head-end unit and with each other to ultimately make communication seamless between those controllers. And so in these warehouse spaces where you might have, like John was saying, 300 feet between a door, man, running cable that far it's kind of a pain in the butt, right? And so being able to have it be wireless is really slick and beneficial.
Yeah, especially a lot of those warehouse spaces, you're looking at 20+ foot ceilings, eliminates the cost of a boom lift or a scissor lift, however you guys want to, whoever is installing wants to deal with that.
Dude, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's extra expenses there, right? It's not just the wiring expense that you're talking about. It is the time that is going to be required to run that wire. It is the rental expense of a boom lift or a scissor lift or getting yourself up in the ceiling. Sometimes if you don't have anybody certified to be on one of those, you might have to hire that out. I mean, the cost can be very expensive when you're doing a warehouse application. So being able to use that wireless functionality can really cut down on the costs associated with that. So talk to me a little bit about kind of what makes a warehouse security unique, right? I mean, you guys I'm sure have installed a couple of warehouses. We're going to talk about one in a little while, but as far as, the warehouse goes, what makes it different than other places?
I mean, it's the size, right, that we were kind of just talking about. That kind of makes it a little bit different. You get your wide open ceilings. When it comes to how big a warehouse can actually be, you got the equipment that's in the warehouse, right? So, like I said, it's just pulling cable. It could be a bear. That's kind of like the main thing that for me. I've been in it a while, so I've seen a lot. And once you get down to it, pulling cable is pulling cable. But like I said, the wireless functionality in the warehouse is spot on.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep going back to that wireless, man. Actually, I love it. To be honest, it's helped me out so much. Even like obviously not in warehouses, but like churches and stuff.
So that's cool. And so was that one of the big things that turned you on to PDK was the modularity and the fact that you can do wireless with it?
Yeah. Like I said, it was that, and then the end user stuff. The end user stuff was the main thing, but I found out about the WiMAC while I was shortly after. For some reason, I kind of spaced on you guys having that WiMAC for probably like a month, and I was like, "Whoa, what is this? This is awesome."
I would say that the WiMAC is very, very popular in warehouse and manufacturing spots. I think another really popular spot for the WiMAC is like anywhere where a gate is involved as well, where you don't have to trench. I mean, trenching is expensive to be able to do that and be able to get all the cable. I mean, right now I'm finishing my basement and I have to trench some of my foundation just to move a drain pipe, and I cannot believe how expensive it is to move a pipe 1.5 feet. And so if you have to trench an entire driveway or an entire entrance, it gets so expensive to be able to do that. And so that's another scenario where that WiMAC can really come into play. And oftentimes a lot of warehouse spaces do have a yard around them, and they have those gates installed there, and so they're able to communicate out to the gate with all the other WiMAC controllers that they have spread throughout the warehouse district.
Yeah.
Another really cool thing about the WiMAC too, that I think that people need to know is the fact that it will still work with Ethernet controllers as well. So the cloud node has to always be connected to a network connection. And so then you can do mix and match, and you can do hybrid scenarios. In fact, we did a case study not too long ago with a food manufacturer called Idaho, and they do potatoes. If you watch this podcast, or you listen to it, you've seen this case study and where we were at there talking about it. And in that situation, we have a variety of different controllers that really create that hybrid workspace to ultimately make it the best experience possible in every single one of their warehouse and manufacturing plant facilities. So if you have any questions on how to build out a WiMAX system or a hybrid system, please feel free to reach out to us on the sales side of things. We're happy to help you. We do, like John was saying, we do recommend doing a wireless range test before you ever go out and actually install everything. The wireless range test kit, it's very affordable from us here at PDK, and it's really going to help make your installations better. You're going to be able to know exactly how those wireless signals are going to talk in the building before you ever actually go and install. So then you'll be able to know if you do have to throw up like a peripheral repeater or anything like that, that'll help bridge gaps or strengthen signals. So we definitely recommend that. Reach out to us and we'll help you learn a little bit more about the WiMAC. But John, how do you guys usually go about finding different warehouses to bid?
So we actually we're young, but we've been fortunate enough to actually been surviving off word of mouth. Your product actually helps us out immensely. Like I said, the user friendly thing where people are like, hey, look at this access control I got on my phone. I got it on my PC. It looks the same. I can literally add a user like that, and we do good work. So your product and our good work are a great partnership to keep us afloat for word of mouth.
That's awesome. That's one of the cool things that I've learned from a lot of dealers too, is if you're representing good products, the business owners that you're doing business for, guess what? They know other business owners as well, and they network a lot. And so if somebody does have a question about, hey, we know what security platforms are you using, that other business owner that you're working with will then talk about you guys to them. So word of mouth, I think, is good. And if you're able to survive on word of mouth, that means that A, you're representing good products, B, you're providing good service, and C, they trust you. So that's good. Congratulations there, man.
Hey, thank you. And the mobile app makes it simple to be like, yo, take a look at this.
Yeah, just right on the spot, right? Like we were talking about earlier. If you can just show it off right then and there, you're set. So, hey, I've got one other quick question for you, and I want to talk, along the lines of a warehouse installation that you guys have done. I'm very curious about an install that you guys have done, and ultimately how PDK helped out in that installation.
Yeah, so actually, there's a multi-purpose facility. So we did a bunch of work for Catholic Charities out here. I don't know if they're nationwide or not, but they're larger in New York. I'm giving a shout out to them. We did their whole facility out here, and they have a bunch of spot stuff. And there's one of their facilities is like a warehouse, but it's also an office type deal. And they use that space for food drives and such like that. So we actually installed the PDK in there. They loved it because of the simplicity, and they can be able to shut things down, or shut users down, excuse me, on the spot and on the fly. And we actually did a hybrid setup there with the WiMAC out in the larger area where there's the open warehouse, and they actually have a stage back there that we couldn't get wires to. So the WiMAC was great there, and then we hard lined everything up front.
That's way cool. And what has been their experience from like the management side of it, and ultimately have they enjoyed having PDK there?
Yeah, so they came from a Mercury-based platform, so they were like very ecstatic to get PDK in. I did a demo with them about 4 months ago, and budget things. They finally pulled the trigger, and yeah, they're very happy. Every day he hits me up. He's like, "Hey man, this is the greatest thing ever."
Hey, if he's hitting you up to tell you how good it is, and not hitting you up asking you how to do things, I think that's really important there, because a lot of dealers, especially with older platforms like it sounds like they came from, they're probably used to having to, they're used to reaching out to the dealers asking, hey, how do we do this? How do we do this? And it kind of gets mundane after a while, right? On both ends.
He used to constantly hit me up to go like reboot these Mercury boards and like go on site, and I'm just like, hey man, let's just upgrade you. We kind of inherited him from a previous installation company, and like I said, once we switched to PDK, he's been very happy.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Well, man, that's about all the time that we've got on this week's episode of the Big Access Podcast. But thanks again for jumping on this podcast. You know, when we reached out, I was really excited to hear all about how you guys were implementing PDK, especially the WiMAC in warehouse environments. And ultimately, I'm very thankful that you were here to help share that message about PDK to the world. So thanks a ton for jumping on, John.
Hey, not a problem at all, man. Yeah, I'd recommend PDK to anybody, even if they're another competitor.
There we go. Hey, thank you a ton. For those of you who have not already done so, be sure to subscribe to this podcast, give it a 5-star rating, and let us know if there's any particular topics that you're wanting to learn, and we'll be sure to add that into a future episode. But thank you a ton for tuning in, and we will talk to you next time.